it together for this one?
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome for Telly Talk, where we talk about what's on the telly.
You're
By that I
echoing
mean
me, and I don't like it. I don't like it. You're not into singing because of the delay.
Telly, and so...
Oh, God. I'm the door on the right.
I'm the door on the... And I'm the door on the left. The one who lies.
Well, if you're looking at it, the one on the left is the liar, I think, because of my theory that the one on the right, the blue one, has to be the truth teller, because it's the one that states the rules, that one of them always tells the truth and one of them always lies.
My theory
because imagine
is that...
the liar was the one saying that, then the rules wouldn't be true. And then what's the point of any of this? What are we doing here? What is life?
My theory is that they're both lying about that one rule. Like, they just made that up on the spot just to try to fuck with her. And that rule doesn't exist, and they will just exist normally. That's what they're giving off.
It doesn't make sense.
Like, they were, like, when they were, like, introducing themselves to her, they're like, which one leads to the castle? One of us lies and one of us tells the truth.
We have not said what we're talking about at all. We've just gone...
Anyways, we'll continue that theory later on in the episode. We're talking about the Labyrinth.
We have so much door lore to get into.
The movie that came out in 1986, I think. It's the one with David Bowie.
It is the worst
and the
movie
goblins.
And the funniest movie in the most enjoyable time you'll ever have. Okay, no, let me just explain the premise of the movie based on the trailer. If you go and you watch the trailer for this movie, what you will take away is that the creator of the Muppets, the creator of Star Wars, and David Bowie got together to create, like, a medieval musical. Yes, George Lucas and the Muppets guy and David Bowie got together.
I just know Jim Henson directed it.
And the trailer does not give any indication of the plot. The trailer looks like it's like this medieval, like, maze, which is not the vibe you actually get in the movie. It's like this medieval maze while David Bowie is haunting you. And it kind of has the vibe of Where the Wild Things Are. I don't know, the trailer did not show the plot, and I didn't know what was happening.
Did you watch a teaser?
Yeah, I think it was a teaser.
Those are different than trailers.
Sorry, music nerd, movie nerd.
Music nerd. Everyone knows the difference between a teaser and a trailer. A teaser just teases little things about the movie, but a trailer explains the plot.
Dude,
Come on!
care.
Common sense here! Did you call me a slur?
What? What slur would I call you?
I don't know. I thought you called me a carrot, but...
No. I mean, I can.
You like cut off, so I wasn't sure. Anyways.
Anyway, Karen,
What?
The beginning of this movie wasn't great. Because usually, in a movie, where the main character kid, is like, life is so unfair to me, I usually can get behind it. Because I'm like, yeah, that's what being a kid feels like. Life is so unfair to you, and I'm here for it. This is, like, even in, like, Where the Wild Things Are, I, like, could understand this kid. Like, and that kid was crazy. This is the first time I have ever watched a movie where the kid was like, life is so unfair. Where I was like, what are you talking about? What is wrong with you?
She was rich as fuck.
She's just a bitch. She's crazy. Nothing bad happened to her. Like, she was just, like, out at the park being dramatic and is, like, out with her little dog in her little suburban town, and then she's just crying at nothing. Like,
she's crying about not living in a medieval Shakespeare play. Like, I feel like...
at the beginning, I thought it was, like, giving medieval Shakespeare, and then I realized that it takes place in, like, the 80s, and it was, like, normal, and that made the movie so much better. Because based on the trailer, I thought... The teaser. I thought that the movie, like, was medieval in setting, like Excalibur.
Wait.
And then it was, like, the 80s, and I loved it. Like, this movie needed so much more intro.
Okay, so I was looking up, because in the movie there's the book, The Labyrinth, and so I was like, okay, they took the book, The Labyrinth, and made it into a movie. But apparently, they made the book may or may not have existed before or after the movie. Like, Jim Henson wrote The Labyrinth, right? Is that what I'm reading here?
I was gonna ask if it was a real book. Did they like take this book and then make it a movie about the book where the book's in the movie? But like also follows a plot, and then it's like meta because then she's following the plot herself.
So it's like,
it was like that script. It's like that script you read, where like you're reading the script, and then the script is the script.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in this movie she like dreamed this whole thing. Obviously.
No way. Wait, what? Really?
Did you not think
I
that?
didn't pick up on that. No.
Really? It's clearly a dream.
I don't think so. Because I realized as I was watching it, about 35 minutes into the movie, I realized I had this revelation that this is a kids movie, and that is why it is so bad. Because most of the really low budget, is this low budget? It felt low budget. Live action movies that I liked as a kid, I thought were really good, and then they probably were not good, but they just had this brand of humor and adventure, and that's why I don't think it's a dream, because I think it's a kid watching is supposed to interpret this as having happened to her. And I don't think it's a dream the same way I don't think The Wizard of Oz is supposed to be a dream. This movie was very Wizard of Oz core.
Back then, it was a $25 million budget. Today, that would be around $70 million. So it's kind of like a medium budget movie. It's pretty
perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, man, this needs a lot more, like, exposition to actually make me feel for this girl when she is declaring that she is a slave. Like, this rich girl is like, I am a slave, I have an evil stepmother, and I want my baby brother to be taken by the goblins. And I'm like, goddamn, is she on her period? I hope she gets eaten by goblins. And for some reason, you read that text, and you thought that I said that I want the goblins to eat her out on her period.
No, okay, so the process of me reading that, when I read it, I was a little bit under the influence of a certain substance, and I read it at first as, I hope the goblins eat her out on her period, and I was like, what? And then I read it again while sober, but then I didn't understand that it was a question, so I removed the is from that statement, and it still read as, I hope the goblins eat her out on her period, and I'm like, I don't get this. And then I read it word by word, like, I really took my time with it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a question. Oh, is she on her period? Oh, okay, I get it now. So that was, yeah. I get it now.
So I'm watching this movie, and I'm having a number of questions. Like how you don't understand questions. I had questions I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And first of all, why does she believe the goblins in her books are real? Like, she is like a 17-year-old question mark, and she's
probably around 14.
The goblins. Wow. Okay. Well, she thinks the goblins in her books are real, which is concerning. Like, she is like dramatically, very, very dramatically declaring that she wants them to come and take her brother away. And it felt like she truly believed in goblins, and that was scary. But worse than that, the goblins were real, and they were listening. Like, they were just, the little cutscenes when she's, like, talking to her baby brother, and it cuts to these little gremlin guys, like, say it. It was so funny. I lost my shit. Why are the goblins real?
Can I say my theory about the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, actually, before I do that, so The Labyrinth, the book, it was written, they claim it's a novelization of the movie, so the book was written after the movie, it's just a book format of the movie, so it's not based off a book. Jim Henson wrote this, The Labyrinth, the movie, and they just turned it into a book. A series, actually. There's actually a prequel, and I think a sequel to the series. It's very interesting. Anyways, in the beginning, this is why I think she's dreaming. She doesn't think the goblins are real. I know that she doesn't. She loves Shakespeare and she loves plays and she just wants to live in like a fairy tale world, but specifically in the Labyrinth because that's her favorite play. I'm guessing it's a play because the way she reads it is very Shakespearean. And when she goes into her room and like flops on her bed or whatever, everywhere her room is covered in like playbills, acting, like headshots of famous like musical actors, and there's like newspapers of like, oh, this musical is playing at this time. Oh, this famous play is happening, and so I just think she really, really wants to be an actor, and that she's just like pretending that all these things, because the way she like took her like stepbrother and like waved him around the room and is like, oh, I wish, like she's just pretending that she's like a little princess, being like, oh, I wish that all my burdens would go away.
Such a more charitable read than I did. Like, you were like, yeah, I get this girl. Like, wow, that was not.
Oh no, she is dramatic. Movie, like she's definitely over. Like, she's like a little rich, like little prick. Like she's.
And then why was she screaming at her crying baby brother? Like she's like, why are you crying? Like I don't know. You're yelling at him. You are screaming.
They definitely needed like more background for her character.
I feel so bad for Toby.
Like the stepmom was like fine. Like she was normal and like she said herself, she's like, she pretends like I'm a evil stepmother, and I'm like, yeah, but like why does she think you're that way? Like is she so like involved
like
in these
most
stories?
Movies have like a boring long exposition, and this movie needed
this movie literally like took it out.
There was a 3-minute introduction and then David Bowie is on the balcony. Why? Okay, so she's screaming at her baby brother. These goblins are running through the house and it's an incredible scene. The goblins running through the house, perfection. And then for some reason David Bowie appears and then for some reason David Bowie is the king of the goblins.
Of course.
And then for some reason his name is Jareth.
Yeah.
Why did they want the baby? I was trying to figure this out the entire movie. Why did David Bowie want to keep Toby so badly?
He didn't want the baby. He
looked so happy with him. He looked so happy with the baby. He was just taking care of him and having a great time.
He didn't want the baby. The girl is influencing. This is why I think it's a dream, because she's influencing this story. Like she was like reading the book at the very beginning where she's like, oh, I always forget that line or whatever, and she's like the one that's like, oh, I have to say you have to take this baby away from me. Like she's the one who is like controlling everything. Like in the beginning she's like, oh, and there was when she's like telling the story to her brother, she's like, oh, this princess, the Goblin King was madly in love with the princess and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a scene later in the movie where she gets, like, really high off a peach and she goes, like, dancing with the guy,
Jareth.
the Jareth, the Goblin King.
The Jareth.
She controls everything. Like, they wanted the baby because that's how she wrote the story. That's how she's writing her dream.
Because I was like, why do these goblins and David Bowie just want this baby? Because they're like, after the 13 hours, he will be a part of the Goblin Kingdom forever and we will have him. And it's like, what do you want? It sounded like the goblins wanted to eat him, but then David Bowie's like, no, I just want to keep him in my kingdom. And I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, they're going to turn him into a goblin.
That's what it sounded like. Like they were going to turn him into a goblin.
Yeah. But that's just how the fairy tale goes.
So at this point, I'm like, this movie's supposed to be genuine, but I can't take it genuinely because it's just so ridiculously bad and funny. But then half an hour later, I had the groundbreaking revelation that this was a kid's movie because of the very, very, very in-your-face theme of, like, life isn't fair and you should be happy in life with your situation. Like, that was, like, the very in-your-face point of the movie, and then I was like, oh, this is for kids. That's why it's like this.
I'm trying to look up why he was in this movie. Quote from David Bowie himself. I'd always wanted to be involved in the music writing aspect of a movie that would appeal to children of all ages. children is a specific age range, but sure, children of all ages, as well as everyone else. Okay, you could have just said everyone. And I must say that Jim gave me a completely free hand.
This is how
it.
you write. I'm sure you had a hand. Like, I feel like, who said that? Did David Bowie say that?
Yeah.
I think you're David Bowie. Like,
What?
you dialogue the way David Bowie dialogues in this movie. I have a thing in my notes where,
No, I
where
get
the
that.
girl's just
I get
going,
that.
and she goes, the girl just starts going into the labyrinth, and she's like, come on, feet. And
I wrote that down too. Why did you do
write
that?
this dialogue?
I would not
You
write
write
something
that.
like that. I would not. I would not.
Don't know how dialogue works. And you'd be like, what would a human say? I think they would say, let's go, feet. let's go into the labyrinth.
I would never fucking write that. That is so cringy.
But this introduction was just so crazy because this girl spends the entire
Come
beginning
on,
being like, I hate my brother. And then as soon as David Bowie takes her brother away, she's like, oh my god, I need my brother. I love my brother. Give him back. Like, her turnaround, wild.
In the 70s and the 80s were a time where it was like a transition period between like classical acting and more modern like casual acting. So she was kind of like, I bet she was like trained, not only just like her character herself being dramatic and very play actor person, but like the way she probably took acting classes were like more classical acting, which made it sound more dramatic
the
nowadays.
Yeah, she sounded very dramatic and the acting felt bad. And I decided the acting was probably bad because she was young and it's a kid's movie. And then the acting is probably dramatic because of what you were saying.
Yeah.
The best, I don't know, the most unrealistic part, I can't say that with a straight face, the most unrealistic part of this movie, to me, was the fact, this is why I felt like she thought the goblins were real, because she was so unfazed by any of this. She was not like, why is David Bowie appearing on my balcony? She's just like, oh yeah, Jareth is here. Like, she just felt like she gets transported into this magical world with a 13-hour limit to go through a labyrinth to get to a castle to save her brother before he becomes a goblin. And she's just like, okay, let's go. Come on, feet. Like, she is not phased at all. And
like,
it was maddening to me, because a normal person... But she has one very brief mental breakdown at the very beginning of the labyrinth where she's like, oh my god, it never ends. It's a straight line forever. And even that was wild to me, because she's like, I can do this. Let's go. And she starts running, and then she gives up after 30 seconds.
But that's why I think it's a dream, because when you go in a dream, you're not like, oh my god, what is this magical place? You're like, yeah, I've always been here on a warship in the middle of the jungle. Like, this is where I have been for the past 5 years of my life.
You are so right. Okay, you've convinced me. You've convinced me it's a dream.
And she, like, goes in and is like, oh, this magical maze that keeps changing constantly because my mind is constantly changing it. And I don't know how, but, like, it is. Like, that's...
Dude, that makes so much sense.
How are you not getting that this movie is literally a dream?
I don't know. I just approached it as if it was real.
A goblin movie with Muppet goblins and David Bowie? You thought that this would be a realistic movie?
Well, no, I just thought it was, like, realistic the way that, like, you can interpret The Wizard of Oz as being something that really happened or, like, a dream. Like,
The Wizard of Oz, they
like,
literally
where the wild
explicitly
things
tell
are.
you that it's a dream. She, like wakes up in bed, and they're like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, I had this awful dream.
Oh, I haven't seen The Wizard of Oz in a while.
Well.
It's like where the wild things are, where you're like, man, was this a dream, or like, are you supposed to interpret it as a kid actually going to this place? That's how I saw this movie, as like, either one makes sense.
Well, she was in her house, and then David Bowie, like, pointed out the window and is like, I live there in my castle, and she turns around, and there's just, instead of a backyard, it's, like, thousands of miles of a maze.
I thought he transported them
to
his universe.
No.
Anyway, when you are starting the labyrinth, would you have gone left or right at the entrance when you walk in? Because she went right.
Oh, when she was talking to the worm? The worm
no,
is like...
not when she was talking to the worm. Like, right at the very beginning. at the very, very beginning, when she's like, both look the same, and you could have gone left or right, where would you have gone?
I would have gone left. Well,
Me too, because even though she said both looked the same, I thought the left actually looked like it had less things to trip over, and I would have gone left, and then she went right, and I was like, damn, that sucks. But I thought the worm bit was funny, where the worm, like, accidentally led her not to the castle.
Yeah. Well, all the characters were, like, told they could not help her in any way possible by the Goblin King. And also, they weren't told to, like, prevent her from getting to the castle. They were just told not to help her. So some of them would just be, like, very vague in their answers. And then, like, the worm was very, like, you could go left or go right. Left goes that.
Okay.
Left goes left, and right goes right, and right goes the right way. But left will lead you straight to the castle. Oh, you already left. Okay, bye.
While we're talking about the worm, I just want to say that you know how I was talking about how it was so weird that she was not fazed by any of this?
I love the worm.
The one time in the movie she was fazed by anything, it was the talking worm. Like, why is this? After everything that's happened so far, the talking worm is what made her be like, oh my god, a talking worm? Why?
I think it just scared her. Because she was like, oh my god, what was that? Oh, you're a talking worm.
And then right before the talking worm, right, this is what I was talking about when she, like, threw a fit after 4 seconds of trying. It was so funny because it was doing this really in-your-face, like, I'm taking my perfect life for granted theme. Like, the taken for granted thing was really, really blatant right before she meets the worm. And she actually says, maybe I'm taking it for granted that this path goes on forever. What the fuck does that mean? How do you take for granted the fact that the path goes on forever?
I have no idea.
And then she was like, I can do that for some reason. For some reason, saying that made her start running. Where she was like, yeah, I am taking it for granted that the path goes on forever. I'm gonna run. And then she runs for 4 seconds. And then she's like, I can't do this. And then, like, throws a temper tantrum. And then it cuts to David Bowie in, like, a room full of goblins with the baby Toby. And Toby is crying, and David Bowie starts singing, and then Toby starts smiling and is no longer crying, which was fascinating to me.
Do your babies
And it's a really good song. Like, why was that kind of a bop? I don't know what he was singing about. He was singing about a babe, and I don't know, like, it was weird. I didn't understand, but the song went so really hard.
Oh yeah, the songs are good in this. I like this because there's only, like, 3 songs. My favorite song was the one where she was in the forest with the red, like, bird goblin thingies. And they were like,
that was
let's
horrifying.
throw our heads around. Yeah. And then she just tore off all their heads and chucked them across the forest.
And they tried to take her head off. And they're like, why don't your head come off? And she's like, it doesn't do that. That was horrifying.
They're like, you owe us a head. We have to throw yours now. If you threw ours. She's like, fuck no. Get the fuck away from me.
Okay, so in the labyrinth, towards the beginning, first of all, there's these random eyes everywhere, and I thought I saw them, but I wasn't sure, and then it made them very apparent, and that was something. That was an experience for me. And then, a little bit later, there's, like, a background character, and you could just very faintly hear them say, your mother is an aardvark. There's a background character, like, insulting another background character, and you just really faintly hear them go, your mother's an aardvark. Like, what kind of your mom joke is that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Next on my list, I would like to discuss my confusion, assuming this isn't a dream, okay? So, like, if your answer is that this is a dream, it answers all the questions, but I don't want all the questions to be answered because I want to ask this normally. How does time work? Because if she's gone for 13 hours in this labyrinth, surely her parents were not out on a date for 13 hours with their children home alone. Like, and if she just fell asleep and she was dreaming and the dream took 13 hours of a dream takes place in, like, 30 seconds of real life, then that makes so much sense. But I was, like, wondering if while she was in this alternate universe that time was paused in the real world or something.
It probably was.
This is just making me believe the dream thing more.
Oh, she's totally dreaming.
It's time for the doors.
It's door time. Knock, knock. Okay.
Who's there? So in this movie, there is that really classic,
You don't need to finish
like,
my joke, but
idea. Okay. What's your joke?
No, it's too late now. It's fine.
Okay. I didn't know you were
Knock,
telling
knock.
a full joke. I didn't realize this was a real thing. I thought it was a bit.
Well, I mean, a bit is a joke, is it not?
Fuck. Yeah.
Well, it's too late now. The joke is ruined.
No, tell the joke.
No, it's ruined. The time has passed. It's weird now.
Okay. Knock, knock. Wait, what? Why did I say that?
What? Who's there? I'll let you finish your joke. Who's there?
Your mom.
Your mom who?
Your mom's an
Mom's
aardvark. Oh my god, speaking of the background characters, that little bit where she was marking her path and then the little,
Oh, the little guy?
like, floor goblins would come up and, like, just fix it.
Oh, I want to add one more thing before we talk about the doors. There was, from that red bird goblin song where they toss around their heads, the green screen and the keyframing was absolutely atrocious. It was so obvious that it was keyframed, and the background just looked horrible in proportion to the characters. Like, it was so bad, but that made it so much funnier, and I love that.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, I understand what keyframing is, for sure.
And I don't, but I believe you.
Yes, keyframing.
What's keyframing?
It's when you, like, green screen things, but it's called keyframing.
So this movie, this
Yes.
this movie has the really classic concept where there's two doors and, like, the doors are being guarded and one of the guards always tells the truth. I know, I was like, is this where this came from? Because I can't find a reference to this from before this movie. But surely this concept was not invented in the fucking 80s. I'm always really mind blown by things that are not that much older than I am because they've been around my entire life. So I'm like, surely these things have been around for a very long time, but they just aren't. The biggest one to me is the Polar Express. Like, a lot of, like, I didn't realize until this Christmas season that older people, like, don't consider the Polar Express a classic Christmas film because it's very new. But the Polar Express has been around my entire life.
Yeah.
So is a classic Christmas film to me. But it's, like, what do you mean the hot chocolate?
To them? Because, like, all the classic Christmas films today are modern.
Probably, like, Rudolph. And
like the claymation?
Frosty. Yeah. I still watch that every Christmas.
I do too, but, like, those never, like, show up anywhere. You have to have, like, the DVD.
No, they air it as a holiday special every year. My family records it.
Oh, really? I don't have cable,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't know.
Fair. This year there was a lot of, like, internet discourse about how there hasn't been a good Christmas film in the last, like, 25 years. Like, since Elf. People were like, there hasn't been a good Christmas movie that came out since Elf.
What?
And I was like, the Polar Express is right there. What, what are you talking
the
about?
Grinch live action?
No, Elf came out after the live action Grinch, didn't it?
Yeah, it did come out after. Okay, yeah.
We got so off topic. We were so excited to talk about the Doors, and now we're talking about Christmas.
Oh, okay, back to the Doors. The origin of the door thing is from the Labyrinth, from this movie.
That's fascinating to me.
That's
like,
cool.
You're telling me that Socrates didn't debate this himself? What?
Maybe he did. Maybe he's like, one person
This is
always
like a
lies
classic
and one person
fairy
always tells
tale,
the truth.
like, thematic thingamajiggamabop. And you're telling me in, like, the very first time this concept was introduced, they also just had the main character immediately solve it? Like, what?
Yeah,
like, I thought they were displaying this character solving, like, this age-old riddle, but they just invented the riddle and then solved it immediately. I don't know. That makes it less cool to me. This isn't, like, a thing that's existed for a long time.
I'm looking deeper. I'm on Reddit.
You're looking deeper. You're on Reddit.
That's where the deep shit goes.
This girl must be very smart with how many things she solves in this film, because she just immediately figured out how to solve this door thing with one question. And after she explained her question, I had to pause the movie for like 5 minutes to think about it. And I will blame part of this on the fact that I had COVID brain fog. But also, I was just like really intrigued at how this works. And then I ended up Googling other similar types of like resolutions to the riddle. And then I became confused at the fact that this riddle only makes sense if like a third party tells you the rules, like a sign that's like one of these guards only lies and one only tells the truth. Because the blue guard himself was like, one of us only lies and one of us only tells the truth. And surely that must make him the one who tells the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's
but he could be lying
that wouldn't
about
make
the
sense.
Entire thing. That's why I think that.
Like, maybe, yeah.
That's why I think that
they just made it up on the spot.
They just both made it up, just to fuck with her.
It was even funnier that they were like, there were 2 guards on each door, and one of the guards just had no idea what the fuck was going on. The bottom ones and the top ones were the ones that lie and tell the truth.
Yeah, they're told by the Goblin King not to help her. Like, all the creatures cannot help her. So they're like, how do we not help her in this situation? Oh, let's make up this weird-ass rule to, like, fuck with her, and we won't be helping her. We'll just be, like preventing her
for
from
the next
hassle.
20 minutes. I just could not stop thinking about these doors. I, like, kept pausing the movie and thinking about it again before going on, like, an hour-long, like, search on the internet. I was obsessed for some reason.
I think if the rule was true, I feel like I would just be like, is my shirt blue? And one of them would have to say yes and the other would say no.
But then that was part of the reason I was originally confused. So I looked it up, and apparently the premise is supposed to be not just you can only ask one door, but you can only ask one question. So once you determine which one's lying and which one's telling the truth, then you don't have any questions left to ask the door which one leads to the castle, because you used your one question. So that's why you have to, in one question, figure out, like,
I'll just
both.
do a compound question. Is the castle ahead of me or no? Or, like...
Well, yeah, but then you still need to figure out which door to go through. Which makes a question like hers one of the only ways to solve it.
Before they tell the rule, don't they say... Wait.
You're confused.
So I can't ask them another question after I ask them my one question?
Right, so, like, it would be really easy to be like, what's 2 + 2? Yeah, but it's just, like, supposed to be the rule, apparently. Because otherwise you could be like, what's 2 + 2? And one would say 4, and one would not say 4. And then you'd be like, haha, you're the truth teller. Which one is the castle door? And that, it just makes it really easy. So you're supposed to only be able to ask one question total.
I'd just be like, is my shirt blue, and which one of you leads to the castle? It's one question.
Answer both of these questions. Is my shirt blue, and which one leads to the castle? And then you know which one's the truth teller, and then you know which one leads to the castle. Haha. So, for those of you listening, the way her question worked is, really, you don't even need to figure out which one's telling the truth and which one's lying, because the result is the same either way. So, you go to one door, and what she did was she asked that door, what would the other door say? Would the other door say, this door leads to the castle? And that door answered yes, which automatically means no matter what, the other door leads to the castle and not this door. Because if this door is telling the truth, that the other door would say yes, and the other door is lying when saying yes, which means the answer is no. And if this door is lying about saying yes, then the other door would be telling the truth, saying no, which means either way it's no, which means this door doesn't lead to the castle, which means the other door leads to the castle.
But she went through that door and it didn't lead to the castle.
Well, that gets into the next theory. I researched this too, don't you worry. So the reason, it's not because she picked the door wrong. She picked the correct door, assuming the premise was real. The reason that something bad happened is 3 times in the movie, she says, like, this is a piece of cake, and then something bad happens. And it's like her fucking herself over by getting too cocky. So she was like, this is a piece of cake. And then the ground opened up, and then there were the hands. The hands were really creepy. What drug were they on when they invented this pit of hands? I hated
oh my god,
hands.
some of these things that they did in the movie were so, like, Telly core, because, like, at the beginning, when David Bowie like brought out turned like the thing into the snake and then threw the snake at her and it turned into a scarf and then she threw the scarf on the ground and it turned into a goblin. That is so us core. Like we would totally do something fucking weird like that.
we would do that.
Be like, oh, it's a snake,
Something
now
that I
a
thought
scarf,
was really us
and now it's a goblin. That's really
was
weird.
the second pair of the door knockers, not like the door riddle, but the door knockers. Those felt like us. We are the door knockers.
I love the knockers. Which one would you be? I feel like I'd be the deaf one.
I feel like the one whose knockers in his mouth.
In his mouth. Yeah. And I'm just the deaf one.
And then, so she falls into this, like, room after the hands, which is weird because it implies the hands could have helped her back up because they let her pick her direction. And then she picked down, and then they lowered her into a room and trapped her there, which was interesting.
So I guess it could have led to the castle if she picked up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Although I wonder if the hands would have just screwed her over either way. I don't know. If they weren't supposed to help her. But then our original goblin friend from the beginning, what's his name? Like Hoggle?
Hoggle?
So Hoggle comes back, and he is, like, 10 times sassier. Like, he was a little sassy at the beginning, but he came back, and it was like, damn, the sass on this guy. This guy is sassy. Yeah. It was fantastic. And then I'm just really intrigued at Hoggle's backstory, because he, like, I don't know, he had such an interesting character being, like, scared, but also, like, really being fond of her, and it was so intriguing, especially the part later in the movie where he hears her screaming, and he's like, I'm coming, Sarah, and immediately turns around. Like, that was adorable. Yeah. And then the part where David Bowie appears, and Jareth gets Hoggle's name wrong, so then Sarah corrects him really, like, defensively, but also got his name wrong, and is like, that was you so funny.
Bogart.
That was, like, the funniest thing in the movie.
It's actually Hoggle, like, whatever.
Like, she was so ready to fight for him, but she was also wrong, and that was just peak comedy to me.
Yeah, I feel for him.
I think we would also, you know how you said we would come up with things in this movie? We would come up with the eternal stench. That feels like us.
We would. The sound effects throughout this entire film were amazing, but especially during that part. They were fantastic. Were they mixed well? No, not at all. But they were good. Some of the falling was really weird.
My very first note is, like, the audio mixing kind of sucks, because the music is way louder than the talking.
See, that's just the thing of the 80s. You complained about that way back when...
Bro, that's, like, so consistent. At least the 80s are consistent, man. Yeah. If they're gonna have bad audio mixing, at least it's consistent.
Yeah. You know? The music's always a little too
loud. Another character who had your energy was that random character that she meets, I think, with Hoggle, who's, like, a guy with a talking hat. You had the energy of the talking hat. Yeah. Not the guy, but the hat. You had the energy of the hat.
Not the guy,
like, he talked like you. Yeah.
I didn't...
The hat reminded me of you. I don't remember why it reminded me of you, but it reminded me of you. And I thought you should know that.
That's funny. I don't even remember him.
So I love Hoggle, but then we meet another amazing character that I love very much. Was his name Ludo?
Ludo! Yes,
Ludo.
He's so
I love
cute.
Ludo. He's adorable, and he just controls rocks, and he's so
Oh yeah,
cute.
he just screams, and then boulders come flying out from wherever.
I was confused the first time it showed him controlling a rock, because it was the rock that, like, she threw to free him, and it was just moving on its own. And I was like, what's happening? Why is the rock helping her?
I didn't know that the rocks rolling towards her was Ludo. I thought it was just, like, her dream mind, like, being like, oh, I wish I had something to throw. Oh my god, a magical rock is rolling up behind me, so I can throw it.
Me too. I didn't realize it was Ludo until later when he controlled rocks again.
I didn't even connect it the first time.
Another part that the Hoggle guy did that was really sweet, when he was crying after betraying Sarah and was like, I lost my only friend. That was so cute. They are friendship goals. They are my favorite friendship ever.
I love how the dog comes back in. He's named Merlin at the beginning, but then he has a new rider, and his name is Ambrosia. Ambrosius?
Yeah, Ambrosius.
I love that dog. I like during the fight scene, when they do a close up on the dog, he turns into like a Muppet. But then when they do the wide shot, he's the real dog. It's really funny.
So a really, really, really weird parallel that I don't know. I don't know what a lot of the parallels in this movie mean. Like, I don't know why the emphasis on the piece of cake. I don't understand this movie. But a really weird thing is at the very beginning of the movie when she's complaining to her stepmom, she's like, I feel like a slave. And then at the end of the movie when Jareth is trying to, like, court her and win her over, he is like, just love me and I'll be your slave. And that's just, like, such a particular word choice. I'm wondering what this, like, why the repetition of the slave?
No idea.
Like,
I think they just
that's
wanted to
weird.
connect that somehow.
Like, the dots are connecting, but I don't understand what the connect the dot picture made. The picture is a blob. I connected the dots and I don't know what it is.
There's no picture. It's just a line.
There's just a line on my page and I don't know why. And why David Bowie is way too old for this girl, which is another reason I believe your dream theory, because why is David Bowie interested?
Well, again, it's like at the beginning, she's like, when she's telling the story to Toby, she's like, there was a princess and she was in love, and the Goblin King was in love with her.
Does David Bowie know how to, like, flirt normally? Because you don't just, like, kidnap someone's baby brother and give them 13 hours to make their way through a very difficult labyrinth you set against them to court them. Like, what is he doing?
Well, it's dream logic. Like, it's like that's how she wrote the story, so that's how it has to go.
You can use that excuse for the entire movie, but you're right.
Like, I'm right. Like, it's a dream, so there's dream logic everywhere. Like, if something doesn't make sense, it's dream logic.
Oh my god. And another way this girl was really smart was the way she defeated the door knockers by, like, holding his nose. Like, she just thinks of solutions to problems that are very smart, but she thinks of them way too quickly. Like, she just immediately is like, yeah, I know how to solve this problem. And I don't... Dream logic.
I feel like she should have taken more time with the door question. Like, she should have, like, turned around and, like, sat on the ground and been like, what question should I ask?
I would have been drawing pictures in the sand.
Like, yeah, I would have been like... She was like, so if I go through this door, will he tell me that it leads to the castle or no? And I'm like, that you just immediately came out. I would have been, like, sitting there for hours, like, being like, should I ask this? No, that wouldn't. But, like, if I... And then I'd fuck it up, and I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll go through this door. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that. But it's dream logic. She just given the correct question.
And, like, the infinity room, that was so dream core with the staircase.
Oh, I love that room. That's based off a painting, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the during her, like, little high acid trip with the peach, when she was dreaming about dancing with the Goblin King.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird, but the ending where she, like, wakes up and, like, kind of realizes that she is, like, she tries to, like, run away or whatever, and she, like, picks up a chair and, like, throws it at the screen, and, like, the glass smashes. That looked horrible. That was horrible.
I liked the part right after where she was, like, in her own house, but, like, it wasn't her house, and then the whole house breaks. That was cool. Yeah. And then that was, like, an emphasis about how she's, like, rich and doesn't need all of her things because she just needs her brother. Like, that was sweet.
When the junk lady was, like, handing her all of her toys and stuff, it was giving, like, when Sully brought Boo back to her room, and Boo was like, look at all my toys, and he, like, brought him all her toys, and was like, look it, and Sully was just like, I have to put you to bed, and then I have to shred your door, like, oh, and like, the girl was sitting there like, this stuff is garbage, and she just had the same lost look as Sully.
Yeah. Another reason I think this is all a dream, you fully convinced me. I was trying to figure out why this labyrinth exists. Like, why does the Goblin King just have a very, very detailed magical labyrinth? outside of his castle.
Why not?
Like, just ready to go.
For funsies.
And it's because it's a dream, and that's just how dreams are.
He's also like the Goblin King. He's very chaotic. Why wouldn't you?
Why
I would
is
love
he
to
a
have
Goblin
Labyrinth.
King? It's just David Bowie. Like, why is he the Goblin King?
Why isn't he?
Why does she want to date the Goblin King? Like,
I
why is
don't-
she
I don't
fantasizing?
think she
What
realized
teenage
that
girl
the
is
Goblin King
fantasizing?
looked like that and was 40 instead of her age and beautiful?
Okay, but just like regardless, what teenage girl is like, man, Goblin Kings, am I right?
I think it's because it was it's her favorite play or book, I guess. But I feel like she just wanted like a prince or a king that she could marry, and that was the one she was obsessed with. So she picked the
Valid.
Goblin King.
And then, why did this movie make the Goblin King so
Gay?
cunty?
Oh.
Yes.
Do you, bro? Okay,
Like, this
I
is
feel
a
like
kids movie, and
feel
they
like-
just made him. Yeah.
I feel like we should address the elephant in the room that you probably didn't even notice, but it's a very widely talked about thing about this movie, is that his pants could have been a little bit looser.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Like, the main thing everyone talks about in this movie is David Bowie's dick.
Why? Really?
Yeah. They're like, why?
I need to look this up.
If you look up, like, David Bowie Labyrinth and then, like, look at the autofill, it's like David Bowie Labyrinth balls, David Bowie Labyrinth pants.
Oh. Well, that brings up the crystal ball juggling if you look up the balls.
Yeah, but that's to cover up the
Ah.
pants.
Ah.
Like,
I
if you
see.
like David
Even
Bowie
the
Labyrinth
figures.
costume.
There's like mini figures of him, and it's like
Really?
Dick.
They gave him? They put it
they
in
gave the Wow.
Really?
Yes.
Let me look at this. Oh my god, they did!
Bowie's package is a sexual tyrannosaurus hiding in plain sight in what is supposedly a fun kids' fantasy adventure movie. While technically more subtle, this half-hearted attempt to hide it is likely trying to hide an elephant in your closet. It just makes the elephant a lot more obvious. And most importantly, remember, Labyrinth is about a teenage girl trying to rescue her baby brother from goblins. And the fact that the Goblin King has a massive, massive dick adds this weird, omnipresent sexuality to the entire movie, which I'm not 100% sure wasn't on purpose. I say Bowie's bulge definitely has the biggest impact.
What the fuck? What? They could have just gave him, like, baggy pants, and it would have still looked very cunty.
So apparently they were supposed to have a Renaissance-style codpiece for his outfit. Which is, like, a little thing that covers the dick in an outfit. And apparently it looks so funny that the girl actress just could not stop laughing, so they had to get rid of it.
Bruh.
And instead of giving him looser pants, they just kept his dick.
Okay. There's, like, one part where you can, like, really see the outline of his dick, and it's kind of scary. Like, the entire time, it's kind of like, oh, that's quite a large bulge you got there. But then there's, like, the one scene where he, like, turns, and you can see the whole outline, and you're just like, wow.
The climax of the movie with her, like, fighting in the town and then her fighting Bowie was kind of boring. Like,
And what?
the first half of the movie was more enjoyable. The climax of the movie with, like, the fights,
Yeah.
I thought they were kind of boring. I like the first half of the movie better.
Yeah, me too. What would you rate this movie?
I'm gonna give it a 2.5 because while I
2.5?
enjoyed it, what are you giving it?
I'll give it, like, a 3.8 because Jim Henson made it, and
Like,
he
I
made...
loved it. I
Oh my
loved
God,
it.
I thought you
and
said
also,
I love dick.
No, I don't. But
You
I
were
loved
like,
this
I
movie.
love dick. Dick.
I would never say that.
But you did.
I loved this movie, and also it was horrible. So it's like right in the middle. It's right in the middle of 5 stars. Is a 2.5.
Yeah, I get it. 2.5 just feels so low. You know, I feel
know,
like
maybe a
3
3.
is the middle.
I'll give it a 3. You're right. Like 2.5's technically the middle, but 3's the middle. I'll give it a 3.
Yeah. I give it a 3.5 because Jim Henson, creator of the Muppets, Sesame Street, all of that shit. He wrote the movie.
Really just made this movie.
He made the
That's
Muppets.
wild.
And David Bowie, like who else would play the Goblin King as well as he did with that giant crystal ball that he carried around with him?
Oh god, okay. The ball thing was wild because he was just juggling. Like, why was he moving his fingers like that? Why did they make him so gay? Like, he was just moving his fingers in, like, the most sexual way possible. What was your favorite character?
My favorite character was the worm War.
Fair enough. Okay. I liked Hoggle, I liked Ludo, and I liked the bottom door guards. Not the top door guards, the bottom door guards.
The bottom door guards, yeah. I get that. Maybe they can't talk because all their blood is, like, in their head. And they're, like, exploded.
They were fun. They were just like, yeah, we don't know where the fuck the castle is. It was great. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, and you guys can like and subscribe and listen to our other episodes. We're actually supposed to be doing this together, but you dropped off.
Okay.
So
3, 2, 1.
Thank you all for listening
to our podcast. You should like and subscribe because we are some cool dudes. I eat tissue sometimes. We play games. We talk about other movies. You should check out our Twitter where we say funny things.
Follow us on Twitter and
Peace
TikTok.
out, bros.
We're trying to reach 500 followers on all of our social media platforms by the end of the year. Goodbye.
Peace.